I've been coming to OCBC my entire life. I go to service. I listen to the senseis. I make friends. We are everyday people. A conductor, a student, a pioneer, an atom bomb survivor, a volunteer, a teacher, a visionary, a frog. This is my family. Our experiences weave into a tapestry, each stitch laced with compassion. We intertwine to bring meaning to each other's lives. We are OCBC. I am OCBC.
Like a 7 days, probably. I would say it would probably more, for my dad, it was more like 7 days of working. But there are a lot of families like that.
Oh, not much. We're farmers, so always on the field.
When they left Japan, they were young, probably 1920. To keep their ties with Japan, the Japanese church was the hub, and it was like the community center for the Isseis. I think it was just to keep in touch with Japan. So the religion and the culture and traditions were really important.
I really don't remember much of the building now, but I remember the outside area because that's where we would gather to take the pictures. Was the one where we're all lined up, and I think my mom said I'm hiding behind her. I was about 5.
With the children, we used to clean the Stanton church. Everybody grabbed a broom and sweep the floor, the dust into a crack on the floor. And so it was very easy. We just dumped it right in there. It's an old temple.
And the ministers came from Los Angeles every Sunday, and when they couldn't come, they had assistants, young men and young women, to teach.
Reverend Hirata, chanting. I always loved to hear him chant. He was the best chanter of all reverends. I know you're not supposed to listen to that, but he was awesome. His voice, it was huge, and I guess the pitch, very melodic, very nice.
What I liked about his sermons was that he took the moon, something following around all the time, and it's there even though you don't see it during the day. And he would turn that into a Buddhist sermon, and I thought, God, those are so good. And there was a time when he got sick with leukemia when I said, I really want your stories, I want them. And he refused to give them to me. And I said, why are you so reluctant? And he said, because these aren't the stories he made up. They're Dharma stories. So he was really adamant about the fact that, his stories he shares. And he'll take stories that he's heard or his stories that he's learned or stories that he's read and compile them and make them his. But he was very humble about that.
It was really rough. We were just starting out. We have a nursery, so gardening, he came to board, and one night he came home saying, we're going to build a church.
Well, I remember the Reverend and Mr. Sawada, and there's another, I forget. Murai, Mr. Murai. We used to see them coming through the fields, and we think, oh, they're coming to ask donation.
The church was their backbone, and so they felt obligated to return as much as they could. But, they did a lot of things that we would not think of doing. Many of those early donors mortgaged their homes and put their homes on the line to build this church. Wow.
Well, when we started our nursery, it was just the beginning for us too. So all our eggs were in one basket. You know, we didn't have, our bank account was 0. And then they came and asked for money for this new house, new building. And I was surprised that my husband, his priority was a Buddhist life, I think, because I don't remember, I was shocked at how much he pledged, because I didn't know we were ever going to make that much. And I don't remember it was $5,000 or $10,000 or what it was. But it was real lot. I never heard of it before in my life, because I was always broke anyway. You know, we were coming out from Manzanar, you know, and he had nothing to start with. So we were used to that kind of life.
When you look back, and this is why I say, in the old days, people looked after each other and for the group. And you think they weren't putting their names on the line when they had to sign the dotted line? You know, those people are heroes. They really are.
The parade they were having for the groundbreaking ceremony, I don't know if anyone talked about that, but we had to get dressed up as little kids, and we had to wear, you know, traditional costume. And when my mom brought me the costume, she laid it out, and it came with this little tiny hat that looked like an organ grinder monkey's cap. And I just thought, oh, there's no way I'm gonna wear that on my head. And she, you know, the skirt, the whole bit, tabi, everything. It was terrible. It's a terrible memory.
There's a picture I saw in the archives, and it's of the groundbreaking of here Anaheim, and it's Hirata Sensei is holding the shovel for me, and I'm trying to hold the shovel, and he's holding it. And in the background, there's a picture of my father just staring at Sensei and myself. And then I look at my father, and I think, what is he thinking? Is he looking at me and thinking, this was all for you, for your generation. We've worked so hard for you. You know, please keep it going. I wonder, you know, I'm looking at him, he's just staring at Sensei and I. And I'm just wondering if I wish I knew what was going through his head that day, that moment.
I think they had a foresight, kind of similar to like the foresight of the founding fathers of this country. They saw something for generations. I think they really saw it's something that could really go beyond their livelihood. And they were, you know, the level of conviction of doing that was, you know, beyond just generosity. I think it was a true belief of building something that was going to go on for generations.
All the Issei's, they put their heart and soul into the church. We have indeed lost a cadre of great men and should forever be cognizant of their contributions to OCBC.
I know for my grandparents and a lot of other grandparents, or for kids my age, the families hardly had any money. It's nice to see how much time and how much our grandparents or people's parents gave to help raise the church or start it from nothing. I guess in that opinion or perspective, that's what a pioneer is.
I never been to a Buddhist temple when I was young. Never. The first time I entered a Buddhist temple when I was voluntarily, that is, it was for a very selfish reason. I was in the army at that time. We couldn't get out of base until one day the commander said, anybody wants to go to church, Buddhist, Catholic, whatever it is, there's a bus to take you there. So then I heard about this Buddhist temple in Wahiawa, Buddhist temple. They said, you go there, they'll serve you musubi, takuang, and miso shiro. I said, oh man, that's for us. So for a very selfish reason, I got it. That's my first entrance to a Buddhist temple voluntarily. The second time was when I was usher for my best friend in Wahiawa Buddhist temple. And the third time was when I got married. It's all voluntary now.
My mother always told me, if you're doing anything for the church, you can't go wrong. Now I just come to church and try to be a good Buddhist.
What's your secret to becoming a good Buddhist?
Be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect those who are weaker than myself. I think it's a pretty good way of putting it.
You become a more human being. And that's something that I remember Tai Uno told me once. He said that really our goal as a Buddhist is to find your humanity, to become the most human person you can be. So I've always, tried to think about my Buddhist path in those kind of terms.
In my daily life, I try to live by the Eightfold Noble Path as best as I can. It's not like in my mind, like all the time, like, oh, you have to do this, right effort, right meditation, you have to meditate now. But it's just, I guess, trying to have that positive energy, I guess, wherever you go, and always try to make the best of situations. Because even if you don't have everything go your way, there's always something that you can either get out of it or do about it. So that's, I guess, something that I try to do.
The longer you live, I think the more Buddhism makes sense. And you see it in your everyday life. Because when I was a kid, the only thing I remember was Namo Amida Butsu, Itadakimasu. And I didn't realize I was learning things. Even though I learned what gratitude meant, I don't think I felt the gratitude, the way I think that I'd feel now, right? Back then they were saying, in second grade, it was you learn about gratitude and being thankful for your parents. But it's not really until you have kids of your own and you realize how much they have to endure that you really appreciate your parents, right? And it's really not until they're gone that you really appreciate your parents.
Buddhism became much more a part of every part of my life. So even in my work life, I was thinking about what I learned, thinking about, the Buddhist teachings, and thinking about how do I make that a part of how I work and how I communicate with people and how I think. For me, the fundamental belief, I will be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself, is what makes the biggest difference in my life. Those concepts have helped me more than anything else. Treat everyone fairly, and communicate in a positive way.
I have memories of seeing my grandfather, recite the Nembutsu when he would offer incense. That just kind of something, you feel something of the power of his Nembutsu. My Nembutsu doesn't come close to my grandfather's Nembutsu in terms of just kind of a depth, a gut feel. And so I always remember that. And I think that kind of thing kind of planted a seed. Then when I decided that I wanted to become a minister, one of the first persons I told was my grandmother. So my grandmother on my father's side, her reaction, I'll never forget her reaction. I told her, Grandma, I think I want to become a minister. She says, dame. She says, no good. Grandma, how come no good? She says, minister, no money, dame. So she wanted me, of course, to succeed more, maybe financially, be a successful farmer or businessman or something. And she knew, ministers struggled financially, so I don't think she wanted me to go through that. But in time, she was very supportive.
Listening to the Dharma talks and chanting and singing the gathas, it's just something that's been really persistent throughout my whole life. So I just feel at home when I'm at service, and things just make sense.
I look at the temple as a gathering of fellow travelers. We're all looking for, the way, and it's like Reverend Mara says all the time. He says, just come in and listen. Shut your mouth and listen. And I think about that and it says, that's what it's really all about, And so I don't come every Sunday like some people do, and that's because they want to, and that's fine, But I feel comfortable about coming here and seeing friends and giving Sachi a hug, and and it's nice. It really is.
And we traveled the Far East, really. I lived in Japan, we lived in Korea, and Japan was always my home, and I really was taken aback. I mean, my expression, I can't express how I felt. In Japan, it felt like for the first time in my life that I could breathe. It sounds crazy, huh? Well, I mean, because, when I grew up, you went to certain bathrooms, certain water fountains. These people taking me to their home, into their life. It was heavy, it was deep, so I try not to talk about that a lot. It's emotional. I decided, how can that be, right? There's got to be a reason for this. I mean, is it the water they drink and what, So I asked my friends, right? I said, how can this be like this, right? And they have two rhetorical answers to all my questions. Rhetorical answers, right? Like mochiron, yeah, why not? Or atarimai, man, that word just blow me away, right? I said, man, every time I ask someone, they come in with this atarimai or mochiron, right? Like, yeah, this is the way it is. This is how life should be, this is why not? Why not? Why not like this, Why shouldn't we be kind? Why shouldn't we be thoughtful? Or why shouldn't we do good deeds? Or why shouldn't we think that everything is a part of everything, Why should we just divide you from anyone else, I mean, if you're a good guy, you're a good guy. You're a bad guy, you're a bad guy, I mean, it's not we thinking everybody in this world are good. He said, but you are you, and so why not we thinking of you, as that person, right? And it was just something that I really loved. It was just... And that's how I was exposed to Buddhism.
I think it's been 20 years now. My dad died of alcoholism. So this is another part of the story. He died in 93, and for the next 6 years, I mean, I'd been unhappy before he died, but after he died, I mean, I really thought that he was going to stop drinking, be a great-grandfather, and everything would be the way it was. This fantasy I had that he was going to magically stop drinking one day and everything would be the way it was supposed to be, that just completely broke apart. And so for the next 6 years, from 93 to 99, I was really unhappy and frustrated. I felt like life was unfair. I'd been cheated. You know, I don't think I felt guilty. I was just really angry at him. And I felt like he did it to me. So it was all about me. So Linda was really concerned those 6 years that I was just, you know, it wasn't all the time, but I was very glum and frustrated. So she actually signed us up to be OCBC members the very next weekend, because it was like, this is our last chance. This is our life raft. We're getting in and we're doing this. So we couldn't really stop coming because she'd already signed us up as members. And nobody does that. But I think she really wanted to not chicken out and back out. When I first started, I thought it was much more academic and intellectual and rational. And now I think it's more like dancing or learning the guitar or playing sports. I think it's more process where you chant and you bow and you listen and you become a Buddhist, like you become a dancer. And I noticed this with Emily's become a dancer, and my son Teague became a lifeguard. And I watched the way they're trained. The teacher pulls that out of them, and they have them do drills and they do things that they don't understand, but they're molding them and transforming them into somebody who thinks like a dancer or thinks like a lifeguard. And that really helped me, because I realized I think Buddhism's a lot like that. It's a process. It's things that we do that change the way we live and see. To most people, religion is a matter of purity, and that you behave good and you make yourself more worthy and more divine and more heavenly, and that's religion. And he kind of explained that Buddhism's not like that. You know, we're not going up a ladder of morals and ethics. And that was a huge moment for me, because I think that's the way I thought religion was like that you make yourself into something else or more worthy or better. And in a Buddhist tradition, you know, we're saved just as we are. It's not an ontological change. You don't go from being like bad John to good John. It's epistemological. It's all of a sudden you just see things differently. And so that was a big... You're just John, but you see it. And that's the part I have trouble. That's another part of my Dharma talks, is it's hard for people to think that the reason why you're unhappy is because there's something wrong with you. And Buddhism's saying, no, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just not looking at things the right way.
Yeah, I love Freddie as much as the kids do.
My earliest memories here, the only ones I'd actually pay attention to were the ones with Freddie the Frog.
Freddie the Frog, when you're little, that's like, you're always just hoping for Freddie the Frog.
Wow, that was a huge thing for us, because that really got us talking about coming here. And the fact that when they say, "Hi, Freddie," it ain't just all kids' voices saying, "Hi, Freddie." You know, there's a lot of adults in there too, and you'd really end up believing.
Well, as a new minister, most people think, well, a young person, you should be able to give messages for young people easily. But it is not easy. It's the hardest sermon to give. A message that connects with the children, that it has some kind of content, but yet it holds their attention. And I was really struggling with it. So we were at a Toys R Us. I don't know what we were shopping for, but I was just wandering around Toys R Us trying to get ideas for props or something. So I saw this frog puppet, and I picked the frog puppet because the mouth moved the most graphically. So I thought, oh, let me try that. And that's how it all started. Wow, there was so many people and lots of kids. At first I was a little scared, but then everyone was so nice. Then I felt very
comfortable. I just say Namu Amida Butsu. Then we connect. Before, I thought Buddhism was something apart from my everyday life. Buddhism is over there, my life is over here. But now, I think Buddhism is my life.
My relationship with Freddie? He's one of my favorite frogs. I now have a thing for frogs, and I don't know exactly where that came from, but I've started collecting frogs. It started with, trying to find puppets for Reverend Marv, but now I just like frogs of any kind.
From there on, it's been this kind of journey, I guess, to really figure out what Namu Amida Butsu really means, because I've always wondered what it means, and I've heard a couple different explanations of what it means. Some say it means like gratitude. Some people just say it's something to say just to clear your mind. And I guess I still really don't understand what the phrase means, but I guess maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's just something you're not supposed to be told. Maybe it's just supposed to be something you're just supposed to figure out on your own. And so, I still don't know what it means, but I hope to figure it out one day.
The old saying, well, it's old because it was said by Dogen, centuries ago. To study Buddhism is to study the self. And so the answer to the question would be to learn how much have these people learned about themselves. I think that part of it, I want them to know, and that's why Shinran says there's only one way to do it, and that is through Namu Amida Butsu. Which, it might sound like a magic formula, but I think only if you do not, in the first place, learn who you are, what you are, who you are, how you are, why you are. Probably those two aspects are the most important.
We had a funeral for my wife's mother. We brought my mother-in-law here because she was just getting too old to be on her own. She was in Denver. And so we brought her here, and she's lived with near us for about 3, 4, 5 years, something like that. And then she passed away, and we didn't have any relatives here. All of her relatives are in Denver. And I didn't know that many people here. And so I knew how we did funerals and stuff, whatnot, but I really didn't have many friends that I could count on, so I just turned to Hideo, and I said, Hideo, it's just a family funeral, but could you mind helping me with arranging some of the people? And man, tears up right now of the help he got for me, and the people that helped at the funeral, and they didn't have to do that. It was important to me.
We started a living through illness support group for people who had serious illness, or someone in their family had a serious illness, and we started this a number of years ago. And from the very beginning, one of the participants was Scott and Serema Morris. And Scott had ALS. It's a debilitating illness that starts with your legs and then eventually works up to pretty soon you can't have use of your arms, your hands, and then your speech, and then eventually it takes your breathing away, and then that's when you lose your life.
The statistics are 3 years to maybe upward of 5 years, and he lived with ALS for 10 years when he passed. And a lot of it, I kind of believe is just because we lived well, and we lived with love and fun and just adventure and comedic moments and and things like that.
And in one of the sessions, Scott was talking about how he was sad that most likely he wouldn't be around to be at his daughter's wedding, to walk her down the aisle, or to be at his son's high school graduation. So I thought, gee, well, what can I share with Scott? So I said, well, why don't you, since you can still write and type, why don't you compose a letter to your daughter that you want her to read on her wedding day? Or compose a letter to your son that you want him to read on the day of his high school graduation.
And I just rolled my eyes, as okay, yeah, my husband of, I think at that time, over 20 years, would buy a card and maybe would scribble, love Scott, or, thank you, honey, love Scott. I said, you're asking him to write something? Good luck.
So a month passed, and we had another session, and Scott said, oh, since I took your advice, I wrote something. So I thought, oh, he wrote one of those letters. But instead, he shared this poem.
I have ALS, and I am grateful. I am grateful to retire early to be with my family. I'm grateful I have family and friends that are so supportive and hopeful. I am grateful I can still walk and get around. When that is gone, I'm grateful I can still use my hands to feed myself. When that is gone, I am grateful I can still breathe, laugh, and feel. When that is gone, I am grateful I had a wonderful life. And when that is gone, Namu Amida Butsu. This was written by my husband, Scott Morris.
And so, when I read this poem, right away I just sensed the real depth to this poem. So Scott, in that short amount of time that he'd been coming, came to kind of sense the Nembutsu, Namu Amida Butsu, not just as a word, as a recitation that we say, but it's this kind of deep truth. So even when his life is gone, then there is still this truth of Namu Amida Butsu.
Yeah, he didn't present that to me until the day he brought it to Reverend Marv. So that's when I knew you'll be okay.
It just felt like this is where I belonged. It felt peaceful, confident, non-judgmental, and just an incredible peace, which I still find every Sunday and every time I work with anybody here. Just amazing people.
I feel like I will be here forever. We do spend a lot of time here. And we don't live that close, we don't live that far. But I'm anticipating there will be a time, maybe not that far off, where I won't be able to drive. So I'm thinking, I should buy a place closer to OCBC, a little place where I can live and just walk there.
Well, actually, this is really my second home, I think I'll be lost without OCBC.
Well, it has to be the people. It certainly is not the buildings or anything like that. So it is, looking at your faces, look at this. I cannot help but smile, because what I get reflected back is the same. And who could not be positively affected by a smile? It's very simple, but it's true.
They're soccer players, but they're not selfish soccer players. And they're the type of players that believe in a sense of team, because together we can make it all happen together, right? And so in a culture where competition's key, so you're either really big and strong and really a winner and all sorts of things, it's sort of a detriment to them. But I always show them the strength is the fact that you don't have to be the star to make a difference. They're the game changers. They're the ones that make that team stronger because of the dynamic that they provide to them. And that's what Dharma is about, is our interrelationship with everybody else. And as a whole, together, if we can keep that energy together, then we can move ahead and accomplish, great things. And that, I say that to them, and it makes them mad sometimes. So, we don't want to hear it. You're not going to go get that Dharma school stuff on me and make me do homework.
Everything was dark. And I was awakened by the Korean people. They were living in the back, and they used to cry. And when they cry, I thought, oh, I'm alive. And then everything was dark, and I crawled out because my roof was down. My house came down. So I crawled up on top of the roof, and I was probably about a mile. Doctor was surprised that I was still living because I was very close to the center. If I think about it, I guess we were lucky because our whole family was okay after the bomb. And after the war, food was not much, but I just have to say I was lucky all the way. I'm still living. Yeah, every day is special. Learning everything every day, learning what I am, what I think about everything. I think it's helping me too. Older you get, the wiser you get, I guess.
They accept the people the way they are. Yeah, just sonomama, just the way they are. And I noticed that, and that's how it is even today. I see the Sangha, and they see visitors that come. We have guests that come, and they just so open, the Sangha is so open, so friendly.
I think that's the secret of OCBC, is that they get everyone involved. From the time you're a little youngster, you have Dharma Wheel Club, you have Sangha teens, you have Junior YBA, and then, as you progress to get older, you have, things like craft projects, and you have game day, and you have Project Kokoro activities, you have the BWA, you have ABBA. So it's secret. It's, by having all those things, everyone can, kind of like the elephant, where wherever you touch the elephant, everyone describes it differently. Mm-hmm. That's the unique part about OCBC, is that wherever you come from, whatever you are interested in, there's someone or something at OCBC that could probably capture imagination and involve you in some way. And if there isn't, you can start it.
he mentions visiting some temples, I guess, in the northeast area, or northwest, Washington and Oregon or something, and visiting those temples. And each temple he went to, they said, ours is the best temple in the BCA. And when I first read that, I said, no, OCBC is the best temple, right? But I started thinking, and that's really the wrong attitude. Every temple is the best temple for the members. And if all, because members love their temple and they do so much for that. And if every temple has members that feel like their temple is the best temple, I know that we feel like OCBC is the best temple, but if every temple has members like that, then I think the future of Jodo Shinshu will be good, right?
単身で一人で主人とそして子供ができてでこの社会に融合させていただいて今あるわけなんですけれどで婦人会の1世2世の方たちの本当に教えがあったからこそ今の私があると思います。
Yeah, I see how, how they get close and how these friendships are they're beyond just somebody they see once in a while. The trust level that they have and how they can talk about anything and they can be silly to just with, they could just be themselves. I think that's what parents want to see, is that kids can just be themselves and they're not judging each other and they can just get along and they're actually building something. They don't realize it, but they're building something here. See, that's the part that I can look back, that I see a lot of my friends that have come back here with kids. That's what helps build this and brings it on, but it's going to be that next generation. So hopefully we instill that they see the depth of what's going on here.
There's a core of about 25 retirees that come out. And we try to do whatever we can to make things better for the church, and for the members. And I'm amazed at their dedication. They're getting older. A lot of them are in their late 80s, but they still come out. I guess they too have a feeling that they want to help OCBC.
Everybody knows how this church was built, how the farmers got together, but behind the scene, who was working on it? Bill was working on. What did he do? What did Tank Sanematsu do? When you start asking a question like that, you're going to come up with some interesting story.
They're not one of those carrying a banner and say, "Here I am, and look what I did." I think their personality, their attitude. I mean, I think it was hardened to where they could even tackle the world, Gambatte. That was their attitude.
They just jump in. Monday work party, they just show up and whatever needs to be done. And it's like nobody really tells anybody. They just kind of know. They got to trim trees over here. They got to pick up stuff over here. They got to mend this. They got to replace light bulbs. And they all just kind of flow together like one beehive of activity that just seems to work without anyone standing there lording it over and directing anybody. It just happens. And it's just amazing to see it.
When you like the church, it's a nice place to go to. You don't mind helping. That's how we both feel. And the only regret now is we cannot do as much as we'd like to. But people say it's payback time. You paid your dues all these years. Just come and eat or just talk to us. But we can't do that. We see people working, you know. We can't just sit. We would go and help. At church, you go to help because you want to. It's not our job. But I really enjoy going. Of course, I go home and put my feet up on a pillow, but that's all right.
You know, this guy, Sid, he won't, I don't think he wants to be interviewed or what, but, you know, we used to shut off the water for the gym outside the street where we had this huge turn-off thing. Well, he just put a valve in right alongside the gym all by himself. It's an 1.5 inch pipe, and he put all the valving in so we didn't have to go out there, you know. Never hear about it. Not too many people know about that, you know. And he doesn't want any publicity.
The people that I've kept in touch with over the years are kind of second family to me. I didn't have any sisters, so the girls that I grew up with are my sisters, and I would never let any of that go. I mean, it's just been great having those people that I grew up with continue to be friends throughout my life, so.
Of course, yeah. I've met a lot of friends out of church, but the ones that I've met at church are my core friends. They're my very best friends. They're the friends that I had in my wedding, and they're still the friends that I call on today.
You know, I went to school in elementary, and then my friends changed at junior high, and then they changed again at high school. So a lot of my school friends didn't really have that long-term kind of relationship as I had with OCBC. And with OCBC, you know, like from 5 years until I'm like 26 now.
Well, going back to my mom, I take her sometimes to the senior luncheons, and, you know, she sees her friends. I'm gonna cry too. And every time she sees them, she starts crying because, you know, there's such a history.
Kristen Kumagai is definitely my oldest friend from OCBC. I mean, like I was saying, if you want to go back further, our moms were college roommates, and before that, our bachans were best friends. And so we joke that we're going to make our children be friends, because there's no way that they can't be. They are genetically programmed to love each other.
And we met in a competition, actually, for Southern District President.
And at the time, it was, you know, it's still kind of competitive. We didn't really campaign, but, you know, it was you try to get you and your friends on a particular board.
And I'm not going to tell you who won, but...
And I lost to my wife. Yeah, so I lost to Michiko. At that point, after I lost the election, I decided, well, if I can't beat her, I might as well join her. So, so a lot of our friends met through Junior YBA as well. But if it hadn't been for that election, if it hadn't been for us being involved both involved in a youth program like YBA, this would be a completely different life for me. Yeah.
It's pretty much the same, personality-wise, responsibility-wise. So that's sort of, I enjoy that. Yeah, so even though we're both stubborn, we both argue. But we haven't come to blows yet.
Well, that's good. That's a start.
But this is all part of life, part of your married life. Yeah. So it's just to understand each other and how interesting they are if you really listen to them and what they learn, what I learn. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Wow. I don't hear that too often.
We have that on.
Don't pull all those stuff. You could cut most of it out anyway.
We were at a senior YABA conference, and at that time I was going to the Gardena Buddhist Church, and all the boys from Gardena sat on one side of the table, right? And then all of a sudden, there's all these girls came in, and they're from Sanxing, right? So my wife, my Fisher wife, was sitting across from me, and we were just talking. The guys were just talking. We weren't paying attention to the girls, right? We were just eating, and all of a sudden, my wife says, "Oh boy, this is really, really good fish," And I looked at her. It's not fish. It's chicken. And I said, "Oh, wait a minute. She's trying to." So that's how I met my wife. She said, "This is good fish." I said, "No, it's chicken."
That's a great story. That's classic.
So I said, "Those Sanxing girls are clever."
Yeah. When I first started coming, OCBC to me was a dark place where I was just like trapped like jail. But now it's a bright place where I happily go to. Like, it's kind of almost an amusement park, sort of, but it's a Buddhist amusement park, sort of.
working Hanamatsuri and Obon, and like slicing teriyaki chicken for hours with my mom and the other Obon members. It was kind of a fun way. You hear a lot of gossip.
I also remember doing the snow cones for Cub Scouts. That was fun because at the end they gave you one free snow cone with however many flavors you wanted.
You must have been pretty sticky after that, though.
Yeah, that's the only bad part. Is our hands got pretty sticky.
I always liked watching at Hanamatsuri and Obon, because you could, if you're sitting like really close, or even if you're sitting further away, you can just feel the drum, and you can like feel it in your body. And then those are fun because we would come in like on like the weekends or on a different day when we didn't have practice, and we would practice or work on writing a song or work on whatever we were doing. and then it would just like we would work on it and then kind of just like hang out, and we would bring like snacks, and just spending time with them was a lot of fun.
It's the little things. Like, I remember when I was young, I'd be like, Mom, when's your shift over? And then she was like, what shift? My weekend is the shift. And this past Hanamatsuri or Obon, I worked with her, and I finally understood the what shift thing, because I was working the entire weekend, and people cycled in and out, and they were just like, do you need help? And we're like, yeah, sure. And it's always giving.
Sometimes I volunteer for the goldfish, and then I hand out the fish, and I take out the balls from the bowl, because like some people, they don't think it's like fun, but I think it's fun because it's like sometimes it's complicated trying to get it out.
Our oldest is Grace.
Yeah? How long has Grace been around?
12 years.
Oh my goodness. Wow. And Grace started at an OCBC? You have the record.
That's 1981. Yeah.
You're 2 years later.
Yeah, I mean, how George Hirokawa was? He's very persuasive, and I want you to do something. He says, come on. He was doing the goldfish, as a matter of fact, that time. He said, I want you to take over what I'm doing. So I said, okay. I don't know what it is, but then, that sounds fun. So I got myself involved in the goldfish. Ever since, I'm still doing it. But then Brian Kumagaya is doing a very good job taking over now, so I depend on him a lot.
But you notice the older guys just slowly disappear, though. That's the sad part about it. And when they disappear, nobody remembers who they were. That's an interesting thing, You always tell yourself, you remember, and you can't recall. But if you got something like this going, I guess there's a record of who was there.
Well, I think to go forward, we have to always remember to look back, too. I think looking back gives us a sense of gratitude. If we never look back, we don't realize how far we've come. I think if we keep the ethic, the hard work ethics of our pioneer members, we'll be okay. I'm happy that it's become more diverse, our Sangha. I just don't want to lose that feeling that I've always had where everyone, you can't know everyone when you're growing, but that sense of just welcoming. As big as we get, we need to maintain that sense of a welcoming feeling to every member, new and old.
Since we have younger generations, younger people attending the church at this time, and well-educated professional people, they're going the right way. Only trouble is you have now is we don't have enough parking space. Otherwise, we're taking the right track.
Think more that social and religious atmosphere has changed a lot for the younger generation. Before it was towards mainly the older generation, because they were the background of the church, and now at least now there's 2 generations ago, so things have now focused on the younger group, which I think is for the better. They are going to be the background. They are going to be the board of directors. They're going to be the president of the church, and they're going to be running Obon and Hanamatsuri. So I think that the younger generation are slowly stepping up more than before.
take our advice, observe what we're doing, and they're willing to step in and take over because they know that our step is getting slower. And it's very fulfilling and rewarding to watch these next generation step up and do things that, say, Mr. Fukuda, it's okay. You don't have to do this. We know what to do, and you can just go ahead and watch or relax or take a break.
They used to tell me, Steve, it's great that you young people are taking over. Back then I was mid-40s, 50, right? That's not young. I mean, yeah, but I think we're going to need more, because our seniors really, the sad thing about our senior leadership is that, we've lost a lot of seniors, and people that I work with when I first came with the temple, are no longer here. Either they've passed away or they're not physically able to participate anymore. And we lost a lot there, a lot of knowledge, a lot of history there. And so who's going to take over for them? It's got to be the newer generation.
If OCBC was not that much different than it is now, like maybe we've redone the Hondo, or maybe we've redone the MPV in 50 years, right? So that it's not a building that's in a state of disrepair, right? No, hopefully we do the general maintenance things. But if the culture of OCBC and the people are generally the same, right? And I'm not saying that means that they all need to be Japanese. No, I mean if the culture is the same, if the community is the same, as in people of all different walks of life are nice and Buddhist and work hard and want to keep the center alive. I think if it was not too much different than that, even if the faces were different, I personally think that it would be nice to see that in 50 years.
I guess the stories I'd probably tell are the experiences I had with my friends, because I hope when I'm 71, 72 years old, my friends are still here at OCBC and they could say, hey, there's Uncle so-and-so or Auntie so-and-so, and it'd be nice if they're still around and we're all around and we're able to laugh about how we were when we were kids. That's what I hope. I'm not sure where all my friends are gonna go 50 years from now, but it'd be great to see them all at church, just laughing about how we used to be.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that would be wonderful that OCBC's legacy continues for 50 more years, and that's what I want for my kids and my grandkids. I will be a bachan by that. My hope is I'm a bachan. I would be so happy to have the same experiences my parents and my grandma and my grandpa had being part of OCBC. Like, that is definitely what I want for myself in 50 more years at the 100th anniversary.
The strength of OCBC are its people, but also the future of OCBC lies in its Sangha and its people. And so that dynamic is going to speak well over, a long period of time, that we're able to grow. OCBC's problem is to whether or not we can find enough space to hold them all. So that's a good problem to have for a temple, is that people want to come to this temple. They want to participate because we're doing something so wonderful and so unique that we're not searching for members. We have to continuously reinvent ourselves to meet the changing needs of our growing Sangha.
My grandpa's actually 83 and still working, so who knows, I might still be working and hopefully have a family that is just as involved and active in the community. But yeah, I hope to be one of the BWA ladies making the sushi and udon, and having my grandkids come here and doing the same interview as me. That would be really, really cool.
It's been a great trip, and I look around OCBC and I see so many positive things going on all the time, and everybody's doing a little bit here and a little bit there, and it's really all the people, and that's what's really amazing about this place. It's just pulsating, booming, it's growing, and it's beautiful to see. And then I see the next generation. Mothers that were campmates at LEBCC are bringing their kids to Dharma school, and I see, Eagle Scouts with their children here, you know, and it's just marvelous.
Well, this is going to go on forever, you know. I think that's the beauty of OCBC, is that you got generations of this thinking, you know. Maybe it got handed down from father to son, father to daughter. Yeah, I see it all around me all the time. If what I see that's going on today continues, OCBC is in good hands.
Message, all the kids sitting there, you know, and being taught at the same time. So for me, I think OCBC, it's just limitless, you know, there's no limit to it. It's just gonna add so much to Southern California and the world. And when I say the world, because I'm talking about the people, you know, that goes from OCBC and goes forward. I mean, you know, who's to say one day we may have, you know, the first Buddhist president, you know, that came from OCBC. You know, that's not too far-fetched. I mean, look at the president we have now. You know, I mean, people, you know, 10 years ago never would have thought that. But I can see that. I can see that.